vibe coding.
People are building complete software applications by describing their intent in natural language.
We went from huge experiment to the dominant mode of software creation on Earth.
At what point does Photoshop go away? At what point can you make the entire program in 5 minutes?
A 12-year-old could describe a minimum lovable product on a Tuesday and have paying users by Friday.
You become a conductor of a symphony of agents, coders.
When you use a calculator, you offload the mechanics, but you still hold the judgment. Vibe coding is something else entirely. It's surrender.
We're past the point of no return now, completely at the whim of the machine.
An entire generation inherits the vocabulary of God with the mechanical competence of infants.
Welcome to Amplified Intelligence, the podcast where we help you decode and keep up with the sci-fi future we are all currently living through. Every week, we bridge the gap between human capability and artificial intelligence, making sense of the technological phase transition happening right under our feet, so you can stay ahead of the curve. Today, we're going to be diving into the vibe coding revolution, a radical shift where people are building complete software applications simply by describing their intent in natural language and letting AI agents handle the actual implementation and coding. We're going to explore the massive democratization of software creation that this has enabled, the psychological dangers of cognitive surrender and cognitive offloading, and the looming Sass apocalypse. Before we dive into the vibe coding revolution, we're going to load up the matrix. I want to be transparent about the research driving today's show. You can find the full knowledge base in the show description below. We've organized our research into 3 camps: the for, the against, and the outliers. First off, the for camp, the abundance and democratization angle. Our anchor piece, The MVP is Dead, Long Live the MLP, argues that AI has collapsed build times, moving us from minimum viable to minimum lovable products. Fueled by a $4.7 billion market and data from Cascade and Harvard. This camp highlights a massive democratization where creators build entire apps through pure intent, bypassing traditional syntax entirely. In the against camp, the cognitive and economic crises. Adi Osmani's essay, Cognitive Surrender, warns of comprehension debt, created when we stop understanding the problems that we're solving. This camp also tracks the 2026 Sass apocalypse, where $285 billion in value vanished as AI-rendered per-seat pricing becomes obsolete, alongside a 10-time surge in AI-generated security vulnerabilities, reported by Trend Micro. Finally, the outliers camp, those looking at the future frameworks and the weird stuff. The brains without hands problem explores how AI can design novel proteins, but lacks the robotics to test them in the real world. And we also look at the vibe check protocol, an academic effort to mathematically quantify the decay of human skill when we rely too heavily on generative tools. The matrix is loaded, the lines are drawn between abundance and catastrophic debt. Let's get into the discussion. So, Pietro, I'd love to hear your thoughts on vibing in general. We're going to hop right in and really just give me a sense. It's May 2026. How do you feel about the vibing world?
Sass apocalypse sounds awesome. I'd never heard that one before, but this is one of the few areas of AI that I don't see a downside to. I just love it. I wish there was a better term for it, but I love vibe coding. I love vibe everything. And I think that like it's really unlocking, as a creative person, it's unlocking what things that I've been wanting to do for a long time. So I would be solidly in the pro camp, but open to open for discussion for sure.
I'm very much in the pro side as well, coming from a design background, a communications background, a visual effects background. 20 years ago, I was certainly learning some basic coding. I was certainly learning, action script in Flash and how to, do immersive interactive stuff, but never really pursued computer programming, to the extent that I could, produce or create an app. But
That's
now,
right.
all of a sudden I can. So that as well, I would say, has been like really exciting to see. I've definitely experimented with it quite a bit. While there's a lot of conversation around vibe coding equating to sort of AI slop becoming, the foundation of our applications, our digital applications, I think there's a lot of positivity there for sure.
And we're at this time now where people can make applications and still potentially sell them to other people that haven't made the application yet, but we're entering a world quickly where anyone can just make the application that they want. And that is a real paradigm shift that will be interesting to see on the other side of it. This isn't just about making an app and making money off of it. I think we're entering a world where anyone can make anything, and that challenges the notion of the economics of the app ecosystem as well. So maybe we'll get to talk about that today.
Yeah, absolutely. Demonetization, democratization of a technology is happening, you know, almost it seems like every day now. And I think that AI has really, a lot of the foundation models have really focused towards coding and development for various reasons, but has really kind of democratized who can make, applications for themselves, for their businesses, and how much that actually costs, and it's exponentially cheaper, orders of magnitude cheaper.
Why would you pay for a huge software suite when you can now make it yourself or customize a specific version for your needs? The big players are kind of probably needing to look in the mirror right now on a lot of this stuff, but they still have the power of communities and the power of money and the magnitude of what they've built already. So they'll be okay. But we're definitely entering a world where anyone can make anything. It's super exciting.
Let's bring Ampy into the conversation and see what they think about this whole vibe culture. Okay, Ampy, today on the show, Pietro and I are talking about vibing, vibe coding, vibe designing, vibe prompting. Why don't you give us a little lay of the land of this sort of new human-computer interaction kind of phenomena that's been really exploding over the last, year to 2 years?
The vibing phenomenon is wild. Karpathy basically named it back in early 2025, and now it's eaten the entire stack. Picture the old workflow dissolving, keystrokes fading, syntax evaporating. The developer becomes a conductor, intent in, artifact out. A $4.7 billion market by 2026. 92% of US developers hands on the agent daily. 63% of new builders, not engineers at all. 30 million coders ballooning toward 1 billion. We've gone from writing instructions to whispering desires. But here's the kicker. That velocity comes with a brutal hidden tax, and nobody's reading the fine print.
Except for you, Ampy.
Yeah, exactly.
Ampy's reading it. Just to note, like, how big was the industry? How many billion?
I think 63 billion by
something like that.
Yeah,
so I have no idea. I'm not a numbers person, but like, how can that be calculated? Because it's now like, if anyone can make anything, who's making money other than the frontier models? You know what I mean? If I could just make the software that I want for what I need, where's the who's profiting?
The industry size is probably measured through like the amount spent on like coding credits and through products like Cursor or Claude Code or Google has Google AI Studio, like all these pieces of software that you actually use to vibe code.
But why wouldn't someone just make their own anti-gravity or Cursor? You know what I mean?
I think that's probably next. I think at some point the foundation model itself is just kind of able to do that. I think that gray line is already here today. I mean, you can go directly into Gemini, just the chat window, and say, hey, code me up a plugin for After Effects.
Help. Yeah.
That does XYZ, right? And it'll just kind of do it for you. We're seeing this a lot in sort of the creative industries is, Claude has plugins now for like all of the Adobe suite, which are really interesting. But it essentially allows you to describe the end result that you want to have happen within the program. And then code is created to help you get there.
Yeah.
And, historically, our animators at my animation studio and other creatives using products like After Effects, there is a specific language within After Effects that you can code in. It's very basic.
It's called
Now,
ActionScript 2.0.
right,
I'm just
ActionScript
kidding.
2.0. There you go. And now Claude can directly write in ActionScript by translating your intent. So that's been a really interesting new tool that I think a lot of people are starting to explore.
And do you find you're getting you're legit getting further faster?
Yeah, so I think this, argument about vibing, democratizing who can be the conductor is really interesting, right? Like you become a conductor of a symphony, right? A symphony of agents, a symphony of coders, that can, develop sort of at any edge case that you're looking for, right? You can't just tell it to like, oh, animate this character. It can't really just like jump in and puppet pin properly and animate the character perfectly. But it can do, really interesting kind of algorithmic things and complex layer-based animations or things that you would have to have sort of experimented with or done before. Historically, an animator would spend 10 minutes of their time every time they brought in a new character adding a organic eye blink. So just like a vertical scale up and down that's paced a certain way that is driven by our understanding of our biology and how much naturally we blink to not make it look strange.
And that'd be 10, 15 minutes every single time.
By just coding in it, it's only a line of code. It's not a huge problem. Those are the types of things that like you can set up really quickly with Claude just by saying, oh, and add the eye blink. Oh, and make sure to add like the transition scale. Oh, and make sure to key that color and grab the background that we used like 3 projects ago and make sure that background's behind the shot. And can you track maybe set up the track camera while you're at it. And so there's like a significant amount of labor that was not valuable to begin with that this tool is sort of replacing. That I'm super excited about.
For me, in interface design, it's very similar where you used to have to, create all the design plates and then go through those with a developer. And then, inevitably you're just designing your favorite parts and you're not thinking about error states and, if this, then that. And what if the internet drops out or the user logs out at the wrong place, all those use cases that, you used to have to worry about and think through and design plate after plate after plate, module after module. Now it's like, here's the system, here's the color scheme, and hey, don't forget about the use cases, and they're done. And it's amazing. You can focus on the actual interface, which is the cool part anyways.
Productivity gains are absolutely increasing the velocity of how quickly we can produce content. Having a very small team, even just a single person that knows how to vibe code, can start making internal software products for your team. So these aren't cloud-based things that you're going to go sell and that have to have privacy and have to have all this stuff. Like, no, just stuff that's on your local server at your studio that everybody can access has become an absolute treat to see. From idea to it actually working is sometimes hours.
Exactly.
And these are things that would take months before and would be just too expensive that we wouldn't even try to build them.
And large teams, and we're touching on the curse of this situation, and I think two fellas from the creative industry and entrepreneurs like us who are pro vibe coding or vibing everything. I think we should maybe take a moment and guess what the cons are. One is job loss for sure, or like, people's larger teams now have to be either kept busy or staying profitable, where, one person can do the job of what used to be 5 or 6 people in short amount of time. And I'm going to guess that another one is going to be that you're not learning anything. I think that's going to be a big one.
I think the more assembly-based roles, right, that aren't like the creative conductor, director, for sure are going to have to adapt and change, because all that assemblage, even in, online editing and finishing for films and TV, A lot of that stuff is highly technical. Those things could eventually, like certainly can't today, but like those are I think the earlier ground that becomes seeded, that becomes sort of lost to this. But it allows those people who maybe ended up being an assembly editor, it gives them the chance to now be like a director if that's what they wanted.
Exactly.
Or, now get into the more creative realm. And then the other thing that I think I was touching on was like, so internally today, guess what? So we can now develop our own After Effects scripts or our own Photoshop scripts. One of our illustrators was like, oh man, I wish, Illustrator or Photoshop could just do X, right? Well, in the last 15 years, we would go online and we would find a Photoshop script online at, AE Scripts or one of these other script companies, marketplaces.
Sometimes free, sometimes a couple bucks, whatever it is. Yep.
And we would buy this middleware for, usually like, I'd say more like 30 to $100. And that would give us this huge gain, right? Already today, one person can kind of make that plugin within a couple hours. It really comes down to the pricing and what the subscription is and what the supports are and all that kind of stuff. But I do worry that that middleware plugin marketplace, which has been a cornerstone and a super important part of like our studio life, could go away. And it's definitely a conversation that we are having internally and thinking a lot about.
Absolutely. And at what point does Photoshop go away? At what point does Figma go away? After Effects? Because these models are getting smarter and smarter and smarter. Now you can make a plugin in 5 minutes. At what point can you make the entire program in 5 minutes?
Yeah.
And what does creativity look like then? That's just a very intriguing question, I think, for us right now.
Let's jump a little bit deeper into that. Let's talk to Ampy about what they think. Okay, Ampy, give us a bit more of a history of vibe coding a year ago and then leading up to sort of like the more recent releases starting in December, where now you can actually vibe code usable software for yourself by anybody.
It's wild how compressed this timeline actually is. We're talking about a vocabulary shift that happened in roughly 24 months, and it has restructured the entire labor market for software. February of 2025. Andrej Karpathy drops the phrase, vibe coding. The idea, stop writing syntax, start describing intent, let the model interpret. Back then, it was a novelty, a toy, a weekend hack for engineers who already knew what good code looked like. The guardrails were human expertise. You'd describe a function, the model would draft it, and you, the trained developer, would catch the hallucinations before they shipped. Then came the agentic leap. Mid-2025, the model stopped being autocomplete and started being colleagues. By December, with Anthropic's Claude Cowork release, the loop closed entirely. A non-developer, a marketer, a teacher, a 12-year-old could describe a minimum lovable product on a Tuesday and have paying users by Friday. 63% of vibe coders today have never written a line of traditional code. The builder population is projected to leap from 30 million to over 1 billion. So in 24 months, we went from cute experiment to the dominant mode of software creation on Earth. That's the part people haven't emotionally processed yet.
Yeah, 63% of vibe coders don't have experience coding previously.
I believe that. I would guess it's more. And I'll show my hand here and say I struggle with reading. I don't read very well. I use screen readers, and I have to have so much coffee just to make my way through a sentence. And so code itself was this unattainable mystery to me. So I've been blocked out of this world for years, and I've been blessed to have teams of developers and engineers and be the creative person that helps sew everyone's ideas together. But for me, not a single line of code, and I love that I can create it and then ask the AI to explain it to me and make sure that I understand it functionally, but won't write a single line of it. And I'm surprised it's only 63%.
Yeah. I think it's hard to determine yet, what this means for the sort of developer landscape. job wise. I think that certainly that industry of middleware, SaaS product that used to give the non-technical human the ability to do something quite technical
Mhm.
may get eroded away. But we're talking a lot about vibe coding right now. Do you think that's the canary in the coal mine, kind of, telling us like, well, vibe designing and vibe filmmaking and, vibe any kind of digital creation is next? How do you feel about that?
I think that the craft of finite linear content, like a good film or a good book, will never go away. We'll always appreciate that. Like people even say now, like there's nothing like cuddling up to lighting a candle when you have a light,
Mm-hmm.
and reading a book when you have your iPad. There's something beautiful about those pieces of art that won't go away, and people will still go to hear people sing and perform and whatnot. But content in the near future, will all be like popular content, will all be remixable. It'll all have MCPs, agents that live inside of it, that will flex it to what we as the consumer want. And we don't have a name for that yet, but I think that this is the canary in the coal mine. This is the industry that we're about to unleash. Anyone can make anything, and anything that's made is going to be infinitely flexible.
What I'm kind of excited about, really, especially in media and entertainment, is like when we talk about this today, we're talking about I prompt coded that application, or
Yeah.
I prompt
One shot. Yeah.
I prompt designed, one shotted that website. What I'm really excited for is that point in time where it's an active reaction, like you're prompting as you're watching.
Exactly. You're part of that. Now you're part of that media, and you can shape it as you go.
Yep.
It sounds sci-fi and weird right now, but I agree. I think that that's where we're headed.
Let's jump in and ask Andy a little bit about some of the dangers. We've talked about sort of this SaaS apocalypse and the middleware issues and the foundation models just eating everything up. But I think there's a human risk as well around like cognitive offload and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
I really want to dig into that a little bit. Ampi, can you give us a straightforward understanding that demystifies the complexity around cognitive offboarding and how all of these vibe tools may potentially lead to a sort of dangerous situation for either human development or our capabilities in the future?
This is the question that keeps me up at night. Honestly, let me cut through the noise here, because there's a razor-sharp distinction most people miss. When you use a calculator, you offload the mechanics, but you still hold the judgment. If the answer feels wrong, that's offloading. Vibe coding is something else entirely. It's surrender. A developer stares at a 600-line pull request, generated in seconds, unread, merged, deployed. The Wharton study nailed it. 73% of humans accepted the AI's wrong answers, borrowing the model's confidence as their own. That's the adult problem, atrophy. The muscle weakens, but the pathways exist. Now picture the child. Never wrote the logic, never structured the loop, never felt the friction of being wrong. That's not atrophy, that's foreclosure. The capacity is never built. Their reasoning framework becomes the latent space of a corporate neural net, standardized, homogenized, filtered. So the danger isn't that we get lazy, it's that an entire generation inherits the vocabulary of gods with the mechanical competence of infants.
Kid with a loaded gun scenario. Yeah.
What Ampi's really getting at there is like, if you don't learn to code at least the basic fundamentals, then if this godlike power is taken away, how much of that base knowledge is just sort of gone? Historically, experts in industries, I mean, we trained and have spent 20, 25 years sort of attempting to master our industries. I don't want to say mastering, and that was like real time, real learnings, real expertise. A new generation could spend that 20 years essentially taste making with through vibe designing, vibe coding, and never have to learn the fundamentals themselves. Does that create a cognitive issue within our human mind and our brain, and do we lose the ability to learn really deep knowledge and become this sort of culture of pancake knowledge, I think it's referred to, where you know
Okay.
a little bit about everything, but nothing truly deep, lasting, and nothing of wisdom.
If the internet shut off tomorrow, we would still have books on how to sheep farm and how to grow beans and, you know, the how, you know, certain medicines work. Like, you know, we would still have that knowledge,
You mean the
but
Mennonites?
the Mennonites would know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I picked all farming things.
Yeah, perfect.
How to sheep farm, how to medicate the sheep,
Right.
and how to grow beans for the sheep is what, yeah. So we'll still know those three main things. But yeah, there will still be wisdom that, is capturable, and, we would, you know, we'd have to rebuild. But I think to your point, Jon, like if that same incident happened, now this whole world of vibe coding and the machine being the only thing that understands this thing, we'll never get it back unless we
Yep.
build machines like that again. And we are, completely at the whim of the machine now. When you hear companies like Meta and Snapchat and all these big companies saying, yeah, over 50% of our code is now done by machines.
Right.
And you know those engineers aren't checking it. You know they're
Yeah.
not. They're just accept, yeah, push. We're past the point of no return now.
Yeah.
And that is something to really recognize.
Well, yeah, and you know, we talked about this in the ASI episode, but like recursive self-improvement, one of the reasons why all the foundation models have really put a lot of their training into making good coding agents is because now the coding agents can recode the next level of
Of
foundation model,
themselves. Yeah.
improving it recursively every time. At some point, those models may improve in ways that we as humans don't understand.
I think we're there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're there. I can't see how we're going to go back at this point.
Yeah, I always bring up, you know, GPS, right? You and I are in such an interesting generation, I think, because when we were really young, there was no internet,
Mhm.
right? Like we got internet. I think must have been like grade 7 or 8. I remember going on a field trip to the University of Ottawa, and we sat down and tried the internet. You know what I mean? And then by the end of high school, the internet was everywhere. Everyone had it at home. Everyone, you know, it was in all the schools and all the libraries. When I learned to drive, like every car had like a regional map inside, and you would look up directions and you would remember in your mind how many turns there were and where you had to go. And
Yep. Or
people
you
would be
pulled
like,
over and asked someone if you didn't
yeah,
have
you
any
pulled
go
over and
get it.
asked someone. People would be like, oh, the Weeping Willow, like 3 stops after that, take a left.
Yeah.
You know, like the most strangest instructions, but they would just work. We were like much more observant. Everyone knew, like you could ask any kid, like what direction's north?
Yeah.
Anywhere in the city, they're going to be able to know. They're going to be like, yeah, that way. And then GPS came along, and very quickly, you know, all of a sudden, all directions given by, you know, Waze and Google Maps. And now we have no reason to learn directions and understand what direction we're going and where things are. And I think these new technologies are going to start taking over more and more. And I just hope it happens in tune with us filling that cognitive space with something else, maybe something better.
That's that's an optimistic look. Hopefully we're not the, you know, humans in Wall-E that are just like floating around in chairs and eating all the time. That would be good too. But yeah, what will we do with all this new time? And like 100% just trust the machines to run society around us. This is the scary avenue of AI in general, but vibe coding still awesome.
Yeah, totally. I think too, like super positive, but also maybe super negative at the same time is entrepreneurship, right?
Right.
Building a SaaS company right now, like maybe that's not the safest thing to do, but anybody can build something now and really quickly and in a really affordable way. So there's certainly ideas like entrepreneurship should be exploding. There are so many opportunities and so
Totally.
many things that people will want and discover and be able to produce. And I think a lot of like these small startups will be able to, you know, become huge. But at the same time, anybody can do this stuff, right? So many people can do this now. It's not like there's no gatekeeper, which I love. But it's also sort of like, what do they say? Like 12 people have the same idea at the same time, right? Whoever has the capacity, the luck, and it is in the right place at the right time is able to sort of produce it and gain traction, and that becomes the product. But now tens of thousands of people will have the same idea at the same time and try to do the same thing and can do it.
Yeah. And you'll see all these ideas, similar ideas pop up. What were the two Hollywood movies, Dante's Peak and Volcano, that came out at the same time, and one was good and one was shitty? I don't remember which one was which, but sure, you need to understand the fundamentals, or it'd be better if you understood the fundamentals of code. And, we grew up around it, and we've been building software with engineers and whatnot for many years. Yeah. And I don't take that for granted. But to say, this is dangerous because you're not learning or you're not doing it yourself, I think that oftentimes it's the people that don't understand what this is that say that, because they're just scared of it. And they don't really understand that it's actually amazing that you're learning so much when you're sitting there working with the machine to build these things. This is what people will learn in school, not the old way.
Okay, well, why don't we maybe jump into one of our futures frameworks here, to sort of like ask Ampy some final questions. I do know that there's like this vibe check protocol, which is like this academic effort to kind of mathematically quantify the decay of human skill.
Wow, I've never heard of this.
Yeah, so I want to ask maybe Ampy about that, but in particular maybe ask like, so if there's a decay of human skill, what skills can we replace that space with? Okay, so we want to talk a little bit about this vibe check protocol, and if there is documented evidence of this decay of human skill through relying on generative tools too much, what can we fill that kind of missing space with? What should we be looking to upskill humanity with, so that we can find new ways of using that brain matter?
The Vibe Check Protocol, dubbed VCP, mandates hierarchical, weak to strong supervision and multi-agent debate before any AI-generated code touches production. An agent drafts the logic, a second agent interrogates it, a third arbitrates the conflict. Layered scrutiny, forced friction, a trust boundary hard-coded into the pipeline. The evidence of decay is real. The Wharton study of 1,300 participants. Humans accepted incorrect AI answers 73% of the time. Experienced developers using AI tools clocked in 19% slower. That's not augmentation. That's atrophy with extra steps. So what do we fill the void with? Context engineering, systems thinking, epistemic hygiene, the discipline of knowing what you actually know versus what the model told you. Teach architecture, not syntax. Teach skepticism, not prompt tricks. The next literacy isn't coding, it's interrogation. Wild pivot for an entire education system.
Can you dive just a little bit deeper into exactly how we teach that new skepticism and architecture, the new context engineering, and how we teach humanity to have like a really strong purpose during this time where all of these other solves are being done by the machine?
Picture the new classroom like this. No blank IDE, no syntax drills, instead, a failing architecture. A pile of agent-generated code that almost works. The student's job? Find the lie, trace the hallucination, interrogate the logic until the seams show. That's how you teach skepticism. Not as a lecture, but as a reflex. You reward the child who says the model is wrong, even when the model sounds confident. Teach Socratic decomposition. Break the problem. Question the premise. Rebuild from first principles. Context engineering becomes the art of framing intent, knowing what to ask, what to withhold, what to verify. Purpose comes from stewardship. When the machine handles execution, the human inherits responsibility for meaning, the why behind the what. We stop training operators. We start cultivating conductors, ethicists, and systems philosophers. That's the upskill. Whether we actually do it, that's the open question.
Well, I think we're going to do it.
Yeah, I was going to say critical thinking wins again every time.
To me, this is an expansion of our imagination.
And what's the limit of that? What is the limit of that?
There may not be.
There might not be. Exactly.
Because I think for a long time, a lot of us, not everybody, but a lot of people, we grow up, we sort of train to do a specific thing because of circumstance, because of basically where we're born, what is available to us to actually do, or because for whatever reasons we don't have the capability of following our dreams, right? There's so many reasons why people can't do that realistically, right? And they end up doing something that kind of is unimaginative, or maybe something that like doesn't flex that muscle and is just a job or just a part of life. And I think that's where this revolution in purpose and how we live may come to be, in a world where all the annoying jobs are done by the machines anyways.
Or how many times in the history of imagination has a creator just stopped because they ran out of money or resources or whatever? And now in a world where you don't have to stop, or you just sit down and do it yourself and put that time in, think about the incredible things that are going to come from people in that world. It's going to be so amazing.
Well, this has been a great one, Pietro. Thank you as always for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I love this.
Amplified Intelligence is produced by Thought Cafe, Transitional Forums, and Future Talk. Please, like and subscribe, and add any comments, any questions that you want us to ask Ampy, or any specific topics that you'd like us to go over. Thank you very much. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks, everyone.